Hey, girl, hey, and welcome to the Self Love Fix podcast, where we get relatable, we share tea, and we support each other on this journey of self love, self worth, personal development, self esteem, and self care. Because why wait until it's too late to start becoming the best version of ourselves? Let's start today. And I'm your host, Beatrice. So let's get into it. Hey guys, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Self Love Fix. So, how was your week, guys? This week I feel like I don't know what it was. I feel like it was crunch time. I feel like I was doing too much and not enough all at the same time. And now I am just trying to kind of relax and unwind. I got the sage and the lavender essential oil in my diffuser next to my bed, and I'm trying to achieve a state of relaxation and peace with that. But anyways, I hope it was a good weekend for you, past weekend and Monday for you, and I hope that the rest of this week looks up, and I hope that, as always, you remain in a state of self-love and a state of peace. So this week we're going to be talking about releasing shame. Last week, or it was last Thursday actually, we talked a little bit about generational trauma and what that could look like in the household you may or may not have grown up in, and how one of the byproducts of growing up in a house of generational trauma is shame. And for those of you who didn't experience generational trauma or childhood trauma or anything like that, you still may have experienced shame from maybe you were bullied when you were growing up, or just you might have even just experienced shame in your family, but not in a way that was, anything that looked like the childhood trauma I was talking about. I think we all experience shame or have experienced shame. And this week we're going to kind of talk about what does shame look like. We're going to define shame. We're going to get some examples going about shame, and we're going to kind of unpack. Okay, how many of us hate the phrase unpack? I hate the phrase unpack. I know it has good intention. Like these days, we use the phrase or the word unpack to mean like kind of dissect things and go deeper into like political meanings, or even just what it actually means for certain communities or certain groups of people. I get that, and I think that's a great way to kind of put all of that stuff into one word. I don't know, for whatever reason, the word unpack drives me nuts. But I like the idea of what unpacking, and I have like air quotes right now, I like the idea of unpacking can accomplish. So for lack of better words, we're going to unpack, cringe. We're going to unpack what shame looks like, and most importantly, releasing that shame. Because it's one thing to define something and to make it known and to acknowledge it, and another thing to actually work on it. So last week I loosely defined shame as being something you wear, like a coat. And I was kind of using a metaphor because shame really is like a coat in that it doesn't come from you. It's something you put on and something you just keep on. Now, in real life, we take coats off when it's hot. We put coats on when it's cold, and we know when to take it on and off. But when we're talking about shame as being something we put on and off, 9 times out of 10, we just keep it on. We don't take it off. We just keep it on. And sometimes we don't even know that we put it on. But the bottom line is shame comes from someone else. Shame is a not so nice way that people communicate how they feel you should be and how they feel you should live your life. Note that I said how they feel you should be and how they feel you should live your life. That's what shame is. But here's the thing. When we're shamed multiple times, what happens is we take it on as our own thoughts, and we take it on as how we feel about ourselves without even knowing. And that is really just psychology. If you hear something over and over and over again, you absorb it into that kind of like subconscious area. I know, getting woo-woo again, but you get that absorbed into that subconscious area of your brain, to where now you've internalized it, and now you act on it whether or not you know that you are. So some examples of shame might be that when you were growing up and you brought home your report card, you may have been told, why did you get a B in this class? Like everything else was negated, like all your other accomplishments or your other good grades. I mean, not that a B is a bad grade, but I mean, maybe you got A's in other classes, but you got like 1 B. And then Your parents may have said, well, why did you get a B? You should have gotten an A. Why did you get an A in those classes and you got to be in this class? Like, what are you doing? And so maybe you got that kind of message over and over again. And now, as you have gone to college, you've gone to grad school, or you're in the workplace, you might be a perfectionist. And you might only feel good about yourself if you get positive feedback all the time. And whenever you don't get positive feedback or, really good yearly end review or really good remarks from your professor, then you might just feel like, oh God, oh no, I have failed. Like you might just look at it completely as you have failed because of your experience with being told, why did you get a B when you could have gotten an A? So that's one example. Another example might be that maybe you had a thicker frame and people assumed you were more sexual because of your curves or your thicker frame. And that's not to say that if you were, that's bad. That's fine too. But say you weren't and people just shamed you just because of the way you looked and assumed that they knew what your sexual life was because of that. Or they assumed you were a certain way sexually because of that from your teen years into your adulthood. And maybe now you're shy to express your sexual desires, or you might be more prudish or might appear more prudish than you actually would like to be because you've been shamed for so long. So my question for you is, do you ever find yourself defining yourself based on past things that you were shamed about? For example, I was told that I would never be a leader because I wasn't organized or structured in the way that a certain family member wanted me to be. And over time, I unknowingly defined myself based on that, in a sense that I would shy away from leadership roles in college and in high school, and instead I would do something with like the least responsibility given. So if there was a vice president or president role open in a club or something, and this is really going back to my school days, but I wouldn't take it. I would take the secretary or nothing at all because I really internalized this idea that I could never lead, and I really internalized this idea that because I don't have a traditional kind of type A personality or organized personality, that I just wouldn't be a leader. I really internalized that. And whenever I did get leadership opportunities at work or wherever I got them, I would get anxiety. I would get anxiety really bad. The imposter syndrome would come out and I'd be like, they must have made a mistake. I don't know how to be a leader. I don't know what they're talking about. And basically this idea that I was not a leader based on my inability to be structured and organized would manifest because it was like a self-fulfilling cycle. Somebody shamed me about my inability to be a quote unquote leader, and I internalized it. Even though I knew that wasn't particularly true, I internalized it unknowingly. And then because it was unknowingly internalized, I acted on it unknowingly. So, sometimes we end up taking on what other people say we are, or who other people say we are, such that it becomes a part of our personality, even though it was never there in the first place. So maybe you find yourself doing that. Again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about when you're told something so many times, you eventually and subconsciously take it on and become what other people say you are if you are not aware of who you are outside of what other people say you are. So maybe an example for you might be that you were shamed about how opinionated and how loud you were, and maybe now you've become more quiet or don't share your opinions as readily. Or maybe you wanted to be a fashion blogger or a beauty influencer or even a writer, but you were told it wasn't practical and you were shamed for wanting to go against the grain. And now you're sitting in your work cubicle all day dreaming about the life that you want for yourself, but you don't dare to pursue it because of the shame you feel. So we just discussed defining yourself based on past things that you were shamed about. And maybe that happens to you and maybe it doesn't. But maybe what happens instead is you find yourself trying to become the very opposite of the thing you were shamed about in an effort to prove others wrong under the guise of trying to convince yourself that you're proving yourself wrong. Again, this is all happening subconsciously or unconsciously, like you're not aware of this. But I feel like I just said a word. I feel like I set some people free tonight. If I set you free, go ahead and wave your hand in the air, like as if you were in church. So here's my example. I'm an Aquarius, which means structure is not for me. I don't like lists. I don't like agendas, and I don't like sitting and planning my life. I do have a Virgo Mars though, so sometimes I try to make to-do lists, but it never gets done because my Aquarius sun is like, no, we don't like structure. We don't do that. Now wait, disclaimer, I acknowledge that structure is important and very good in life. It's just not my portion. It's not my portion to execute the structure. I'm more of a visionary person. Okay, there's that. I'm done. Okay, back to the example. So with having that in mind, I was heavily shamed growing up about not being organized in a certain way. And I was so determined to be this type A person since, I grew up with this idea that, well, I'm not organized, and because I'm not organized, I'm not going to be successful. So I have to be super type A. I have to make a million lists. I have to have a million agendas, and I have to have everything automated and everything just in perfect coordination if I want to be successful. That was kind of the mentality I had. So I would watch a ton of YouTube videos, I would buy passion planners, and I would do and make all these lengthy to-do lists. And I even tried using like 3 different agendas. And you know what would happen? It would work for like a week. And then by the time week 2 hit, it would just go to shit. It wouldn't continue. It was over. I didn't want to do it anymore. I became frustrated and almost overwhelmed by how much everything was automated and simplified into some sort of a structure. It just was not the way I operated. I was basically going against my own like default way of operating. And I would feel really bad about myself. I would be like, oh my God, am I just really bad? Am I just disorganized? Am I lazy? And then I realized, no, I'm not any of those things. There's plenty of people who are not structure people, who are not agenda people, who don't set, goals and measure them every 4 weeks for progress with all these cool indicators. It's not for everyone. I'm not discouraging you from being organized. If you are, please continue to do that because it probably makes your life easier. It's just, I know that's not how I perform best, but I was trying so hard to make myself into this type A person that someone else wanted me to be because someone else saw that that was the best way, and they shamed me because they felt I should live my life a certain way and wanted to do something about it. But the fact of the matter is, I was chilling. I was doing just fine with my lack of agendas and my lack of passion planners. I was just fine. Okay, so maybe you weren't shamed for your lack of organization, but maybe you grew up in a bigger body all your life, and maybe you've had people shame you about it, and maybe you've gone on diet after exercise program and can't stick with it. Have you ever thought that maybe you can't stick with it because deep down you're actually okay with your body, but because others aren't okay with your body, you decided you need to do something about it? Now, for those of you who don't know, I am a registered dietitian, so I always advocate for a healthy lifestyle and a healthy weight, but healthy weight looks different for different people. So does a healthy lifestyle. And in addition, not everybody wants to lose weight. Some people want to change their diet and eat healthier and live better, but they're not concerned with losing weight. And some people just aren't really ready to start a weight loss journey. Like maybe they want to, but it's not their time yet. Maybe they want to pursue that at a later time in their life, So are you able to see now how shame has nothing to do with how you view yourself, but instead it could become how you define yourself, even without realizing it? Don't let other people's ideas of who you are or who you should become or what you should be like define how you see yourself. Don't give them that power. And let me tell you something. People who don't have a clear idea of who they are or who they should be or where they should be are often the first and the quickest to tell you who you should be and where you should be and what you should do. And have you also noticed that these people who shame you often front like they have everything together? And they really, really don't, but they be trying to convince you so hard that they have it together. But you can see it, but really their life is in shambles, like complete shambles. And the reason for that is, once again, because we view people as our mirrors and we treat them as our reflection. So if someone shames you for your weight, it's likely because they are on an unsuccessful weight journey themselves. Or They just might have a very negative body image. And they don't like that you remind them of whatever they feel about themselves. So they want to fix it on the outside. They want to just do what they can to fix the outside because it's easier to fix the outside than to fix yourself. Literally, I promise you, we look at people like mirrors as reminders of who we are, or if you're lacking in a little bit of self-love, of who we aren't. And so if you want to be a fashion blogger or a beauty influencer or do something super unconventional and run your own business in your own life, and you have people around you who are telling you you're not going to be successful, it's probably because they have the same exact dream, but they don't believe they can achieve it themselves, so they want to take you down with them. Yeah, they want to take you down with them because, again, reflections. You're a reminder of what they want to accomplish, and they can't accomplish it. So they don't want somebody else to accomplish it. So you're going down too. You're not going up to the top because that's just another reminder that they can't achieve it because that's what they think for themselves. Or maybe you're that girl who's a little bit thicker and men want to shame you and women want to shame you. Everybody wants to shame you. But maybe it's because those women are uncomfortable with their sexuality and your body shape reminds them of their sexuality, which, by the way, is not your fault. That's their problem, something they got to deal with, but you just happen to be a reminder. Or maybe with these men who want to shame you, maybe they're also not comfortable with their sexuality. I know, shocker, but it's a lot of men out here that just aren't. And so I hope you're maybe now seeing what I mean by shame comes from other people and how it is literally birthed out of someone else's insecurity or someone else's dissatisfaction with themselves. Again, it is much easier to fix what is on the outside than it is to fix what's on the inside. So people are going to constantly, all your life really, just constantly shame you, tell you how you should be, tell you how you should live because of whatever is going on with them. Has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with you. So when we talk about releasing shame, how do we do that? How do we begin to do the work? Well, first we remind ourselves whenever we hear people telling us something that even remotely sounds shameful or sounds like it's not in our best interest and it's really just kind of an attack on, how we live our lives or who we are, we can just kind of observe what they're saying. Remember that they're looking at you like a mirror. It has nothing to do with you. And that's how we kind of avoid getting defensive, is we remember that when people say things that are negative about us, that it says more about them than it says about us. And we can just kind of be like, okay, that's not the energy I need. I'm not welcoming that in my life. We can kind of do that. And you can ask yourself, is this someone, if they're doing this repeatedly, of course, is this someone I want to spend my time around? Because you can easily and nicely remove yourself. We're adults. We don't have to be around anything we don't want to be around. And we definitely don't want to be around anything we don't need to be around. Because why would you want to be around anything or anybody that doesn't feed your soul or feed into you? Why be around people voluntarily who tear you down when you don't have to be? Come on now. We're adults. We don't do that. Another way we can accomplish releasing shame is by having defined who we are, because once you define who you are, it's very difficult to get lost in who other people say that you are. So if someone comes up to you and says, you really need to lose some weight, you've gotten really big, and I just really think you need to lose some weight, what happened to you? If you know that you're comfortable with your weight, you might just be like, I'm good, I'm actually chilling, like me and my weight are okay. It then becomes so easy. Like, you don't have to do this thing of, well, do I need to lose weight? Maybe she's right. Maybe I have gained a couple pounds. Oh no, do other people notice that I've gained weight? You wouldn't have this kind of mental chatter of kind of being almost in agreement with this person or even considering what they have to say, because you already know, well, I'm fine with my weight. I was just using an example. But it could be applied to really any situation. Again, if that person's telling you you're crazy for wanting to stop your nurse practitioner career to become a hairdresser, because being a hairdresser brings you joy. And when other people are concerned about your salary or your lifestyle or how you're going to make coin, you're not worried, because you know that decision is a decision you've made for yourself and you're confident in that decision, and you don't need to be shamed into making the decision they want you to make. See, I'm telling you, it really all comes back to what they feel about you. So really the way to release shame is to get clear about who you are and to get clear about how you view yourself. And that means you got to spend some time with yourself. That means you got to maybe take out a mirror and look at that mirror and just say, what brings you joy? What do you like to do? Have a conversation with yourself. It sounds a little bit weird. I mean, when I did it, I was kind of like, okay, are we talking to ourselves? Is this what we're doing? But it's important to do the work. Self-mastery, self-love, self-worth, all these things, self-esteem, it takes work. It doesn't just come to you. It doesn't come from reading a bunch of self-help books or even consuming a lot of podcasts. It comes from taking what you learn from them and applying it. Yes, application is key. So I hope that you spend a little bit of time with yourself after this podcast, and I hope you get reacquainted with who you are, who you want to become, and what you're doing. And the rest is going to be so easy. Trust me, when you get clear, people can keep talking and you won't even be bothered. You won't even notice what they're saying. It's just going to be some mindless chatter in the back. So thank you all for joining me this Tuesday in episode 5, Releasing Shame. I hope that I helped you understand a little bit more about shame, and I hope I helped spur or spark an interest in releasing shame. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. And as always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next Tuesday. All right, have a good week.